Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to my UEFA semi-final prediction video where of course today we're going to be predicting every single semi-final of every UEFA competition. That includes the Conference League, the Europa League, and I don't really have to sell it to you guys, the Champions League, the best trio of all time.
Are you sure about that?
Now, of course, we've got 8 brilliant games to talk about, and without wasting any more of your time, jumping into our first game, we have West Ham versus Alkmaar in the Conference League. Now, we are going to be talking about the Conference League semi-finals first, and I'll work our way up to the Champions League semi-finals because, well, to be honest, I need the viewer attention. But looking at our first game, West Ham versus Alkmaar is not a bad start to the video. Looking at West Ham United, 15th place in the Premier League. We'll ignore that for a second because they haven't been good in English domestic league at the moment. But looking at Europe, 24 goals scored and only 6 against in 10 games is a really good record, and West Ham United will be confident heading into the semi-final. Especially considering it was the stage they reached last season as well. They're going to have that tiny bit of urgency, that tiny bit of revenge to make it all the way this time, and they're not going to make it easy versus Alkmaar. Although saying that as a Manchester United fan, I know you cannot underestimate opposition like Alkmaar in European football. But saying that, looking at Alkmaar, 4th place in the Eredivisie, less goals scored and obviously more goals scored against in European football, West Ham United will be going into this as strong favourites. Although saying that, Alkmaar have proven it versus some very top opposition, obviously Anderlecht and Lazio, turning the likes of a world-class striker Immobile into, well, immobile.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I do think Alkmaar is a team that could cause a real upset here, but look at West Ham United, as I said, with their experience last season and them having a better record in Europe this season, I do think that they will just take it, and I do think they'll make it to the final. Now, looking at our other Conference League semi-final, it is Fiorentina versus Basel. Now, of course, looking at the Swiss club Basel, as we know, they've got a really good team this time around. Hertz, obviously a really good goalkeeper, a lot of experience in the Bundesliga with Borussia Dortmund, and a really good midfielder in the likes of Granit Xhaka's older brother, which I think it would just fill my heart with so much happiness knowing if his brother has more European trophies than Granit Xhaka. But at the end of the day, Basel really taking some top performances, including a win versus a very informed Nice team, which was very nice of them. But at the end of the day, I still think Fiorentina will take it. They have just reached the final of the Coppa Italia club, and I do think once again they are a team that could cause a real threat here. I do think that they will end up taking it. They've got a lot of talent in their team. Obviously Amrabat, one of the best midfielders in world football. They've got Jovic up front and a whole bunch of talent throughout. It will be an incredibly close game, but as I said, I do think that the Italian giants will take it. That ups the level to our next European competition as we have the Europa League next. And what other game to start off with than Roma versus Leverkusen? And of course, looking at Roma, Jose Mourinho and European trophies and European competitions. Name a better duo in world football. Well, maybe Jose Mourinho and memes on the internet.
I prefer really not to speak.
What is this?
You know, they like to cry. That's tradition.
But at the end of the day, Jose Mourinho is a manager who has proven time in and time out that he knows what to do in European football, obviously winning the Conference League last season. But saying that, this time I think will be incredibly tough versus Leverkusen. As we know, in recent times, Leverkusen have beaten the likes of Bayern Munich, RB Leipzig and Frankfurt in the Bundesliga, and will be going into this game extremely hungry. Obviously 14 goals, 4 in 6 games, obviously attacking form, they've been really solid. And looking at Roma once again, they have struggled from time to time. Obviously looking at them, Tammy Abraham isn't scoring as many goals as he did last season, although saying that, that's because Paulo Dybala's at least taken some of those goals. But at the end of the day, this could be an incredibly close game, and I know what I said about Jose Mourinho about 30 seconds ago, but I think Bayer Leverkusen, I do think Bayer Leverkusen are going to cause a real shock here, and I think the Germans are going to make it through to the next stage. I'm sorry, Jose Mourinho. Now, heading into our next Europa League game, we've got Juventus versus Sevilla. Now, looking at Juventus, I still find it weird to say that they're in the Europa League. And of course, with their point deduction taken away, they are 3rd place in Serie A at the moment. And that really does up a level to their season. The fact that they could qualify for Champions League next year.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it.
Looking at Juventus, as we know, they haven't had a good last few years, and even this season they've lost to the likes of both Napoli and Inter very recently, and heading into top opposition like Sevilla, who although 11th place in the Liga, just took down Manchester United.
This is football heritage.
Once again, I do think this is a game that could be incredibly close. It could go down to penalties, and as much as I want to put Sevilla, because Let's be honest, they own Europa League. I do think Juventus are going to cause a shock result here, and I think they're just going to end up taking it. I think it's going to be a draw in the first leg, and Juventus will take it on the second leg. Once again, they've got so much talent throughout, they just need to pick it up a level. Which, once again, as I said, severe, they do own Europa League. Anything could happen. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to our two Champions League semi-finals, and of course, with Real Madrid versus Manchester City and Inter Milan versus AC Milan, you could not ask for better semi-finals in the Champions League. I mean, bar Manchester City being there, it kind of feels like a very old school kind of Champions League semi-final setup. Of course, looking at that first semi-final being Real Madrid versus Manchester City, both teams, as we know, to dominate world football over the last few years, both second in the domestic league. Saying that though, Manchester City have just absolutely smacked the likes of Arsenal.
I'm better. I am better!
And let's be honest, probably will regain their Premier League title. I'm sorry that they gave Arsenal any kind of hope there. Once again, they've been in really top form at the moment, and I think they could cause a real upset versus Real Madrid, the most decorated team in Champions League football, who have been dropping some really unnecessary points this season. Once again, it is still an absolutely fantastic squad, and when it comes to Europe, once again, it's hard to look at domestic football because they do seem to switch up a level when it comes to the Champions League. I mean, we saw that versus Chelsea. They absolutely wiped the floor with them. Although saying that it is Chelsea, Brentford just wiped the floor with them.
I'm just happy to be here.
But at the end of the day, this could be an incredibly close game. And I know this is going to sound like a surprise, and I know lots of football fans won't like this, but I think this is where Manchester City finally do it. I think Manchester City are going to take the points here. Once again, the likes of the reigns of a former bold legend in the Champions League with Zinedine Zidane. Now that he's no longer there, another bold man has to take the trophy, and I do think it will be Pep Guardiola.
Inevitable.
This team is just way too good not to eventually win a Champions League. It would be criminal if this team never ended up doing it. I do think Manchester City will do it, and I do think it will be incredibly close. Now, jumping into our final semi-final game of the video, which of course, if you guys have enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe down below to let me know you enjoyed these kinds of videos. But jumping into our last game, it is the Milan Derby, or the Derby della Madonnina. I am so sorry if I said that wrong, which, let's be honest, I probably did. But AC Milan versus Inter. As we know, AC Milan at the moment currently 4th place in the Serie A, while Inter are currently 6th. Once again, both teams not doing as well as they maybe did over the last 2 seasons. But as we know, this is always one of the biggest derbies in world football. This will be a game to remember in Champions League football, and I'm really happy to see that an Italian team will make the Champions League final this year. Once again, looking at both of these two teams, it will be an absolute game to remember, and in terms of a winner, it's not going to be easy here. I do feel like AC Milan definitely do seem to be a better team at the moment, but Inter have taken advantage of AC Milan this season. They've already played against each other 3 times this season, with Inter winning 2 games and AC winning 1. So once again, that does show you that Inter Milan have had the better advantage of AC. I do think in terms of a winner here this time around, who will make it to the Champions League semi-final? I'm going to go for, actually, I don't know here. Who am I going to go for? You know what, stuff it. I think Inter are going to take their 3rd win versus AC. No, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm just going to backtrack here. I think AC Milan are going to take their revenge on Inter this season, and they will make it through to the final of the Champions League, which of course means I think the Champions League final will be Manchester City versus AC Milan.
Shut up and take my money.
How weird would that be? But of course, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you did enjoy this video. Once again, we've got 8 incredible semi-finals across all UEFA competitions to watch. I hope that you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please of course make sure to like the video down below, and don't forget to subscribe. But guys, this has been Finn, FYNN. Until next time, cheers.